First thing I want to talk about in terms of The Voice and why I think it's a very bad idea is the rhetoric regarding Australia Day. There's been a lot of to and fro regarding this particular issue from proponents of the yes vote. I've already made a video about it, which summarises everything I'm about to say using their own words. So if you want to watch that, just type in an Australian meditation Australia Day and you'll see all the evidence. The purpose of this video is just dissect the evidence and just flesh it out a bit. In terms of what's been said, so Linda Burney, who I think is the Indigenous Affairs Minister or something, she's really at tip of the spear for the Yes campaign. She said in Parliament that The Voice will not engage in cultural wars. Now, The Voice itself is one of the many weapons the left in this country are using in the cultural war. And one cultural war is the whole Aboriginal issue. So, first, that's hypocritical, that they're saying that The Voice is not going to engage in cultural wars, when The Voice itself is one of their main weapons in fighting the cultural war, that is the whole Aboriginal question. Secondly, they've said that the Voice is going to be commenting on issues and policies that directly affect Aboriginal people. Now, Aboriginals have been campaigning against Australia Day for a long time now, at least a decade, maybe probably more than a decade. Okay, it's getting louder every year. Every year it gets louder and louder. So, how can you say with a straight face that The Voice is not going to comment about Australia Day, changing the date obviously, when Aboriginals have been campaigning every Australia Day on the streets asking to either change the date or abolish Australia Day? And most of them basically saying abolish Australia Day, right? That's the kind of signs you see on the street. So obviously Australia Day is a policy, an area, an issue which affects directly Aboriginal people, and I don't blame them, because it does, it signifies dispossession and some would argue genocide of their people. So it makes sense, according to the standards set by the government, that The Voice will comment on this issue, because The Voice, like I said before, is going to be commenting on issues that relate to Indigenous people. And obviously, as we've seen, a lot of Indigenous people are very sensitive about Australia Day. But for some reason, Linda Burney is denying that, and she's saying that The Voice is not going to recommend to change Australia Day, and it's not going to engage in cultural wars. Now, that is complete bullshit, and that's something that we all need to realise and not believe the government when they say this. The government is literally lying to you. They are going to change Australia Day using The Voice. Okay? And I want The Voice to go down, but I want to put on record now, if The Voice gets up, I guarantee you 100% that one of the first things they will be doing in the lead up to Australia Day in the future, whether it be 2024, 2025, 2026, they will recommend that the government change the date of Australia Day. I'll put that on record right now. That's my prediction, if The Voice gets up. Now, when that happens, people like Linda Burney need to be held to account. And they need to apologise, or they need to be called liars, and they need to be castigated, they need to be court-martialed, or they need to be taken to court or punished somehow, because they literally lied to the Australian people. Now, that's still hypothetical in the future, but I'm just flagging that with everyone. And I want this video to stay in posterity, to remain in posterity, because one thing I hate in this world, it's people that lie, and people that promise things they can't deliver. Okay, I'll go out of my way to really try hard not to promise things I can't deliver. And it's extremely rare that I'll tell someone I can do something and then not do it. maybe there must be some sort of extreme situation, maybe I'm sick or something extreme, but it's very rare that I promise things, and if I do promise things, it's 98% guarantee that I'll do it pretty much. That 2% being something extreme like I'm dead or I'm sick or whatever. So those are the standards that I have, and if I'm being treated like a retard, if I'm being treated like I'm stupid by people like Lyndon Burney who think that we can believe anything they say, especially when it comes to very obvious things like the voice changing Australia Day, which is going to happen if it gets up. That makes me very angry, and I think of that very personally, because I hate liars and I hate people who say one thing and do the other, or they overpromise or underdeliver, or they say something's going to happen this way and it doesn't happen. Okay, it just doesn't gel well with me, and it shouldn't gel well with you either. Now, in terms of other comments that have been made regarding this particular issue, about a month or two later after Lyndon Burney made those comments in Parliament, Anthony Albanese was on Ben Forum, radio show. I think it was his second time appearing on the Ben Forum show, 2GB. The first time was in January, I think, this year, and the second time was about a month or two ago. And he was asked this question about Australia Day, and he said that if The Voice comments about Australia Day, that they'll ignore that advice. Let that sink in for a second. He was asked by Ben Forum whether the government would accept a recommendation by The Voice to change Australia Day, and Anthony Albanese said that if that happened, they would not change Australia Day. Now, that directly contradicts what Lyndon Burney said about a month before in Parliament, because Anthony Albanese answered that question in a way that accepts and portends the possibility that The Voice can comment on this issue and will comment on this issue. Lyndon Burney said that they would never even consider this issue because they're not going to engage in cultural wars, and Australia Day is a cultural war, okay? So she's denying the very possibility that this will even be an issue. But Anthony Albanese is saying that, by answering this question and saying that we'll deny, we won't accept this recommendation if The Voice asks for it, he's basically, implying that might actually happen. It might be a possibility that The Voice will recommend this, changing Australia. So this is a contradiction. You've got Lyndon Burney and Anthony Albanese directly contradicting each other within a month. Furthermore, constitutional lawyers and even voice architects, after those comments were made by Lyndon Burney, all came out and said this is not true, that The Voice will basically have unlimited scope when it comes to advising and making representations. Even before she said these comments, but especially after, experts in the field and architects of The Voice were saying no, that The Voice can make these recommendations. Megan Davis is one of them. She is quoted as saying, before those comments made by Lyndon Burney, that you can't shut up The Voice. That's a direct quote, you can't shut The Voice up. Which basically means that once you have The Voice, you can comment on pretty much anything it wants. She said that, and that includes Australia Day. And there's a lot of constitutional lawyers who have said that basically it's got an unlimited scope, which means Australia Day falls within that scope and they can comment on it. Another thing I want to address is that how can Lyndon Burney predict the future? What makes her so confident to say that the Voice is not going to be commenting on Australia Day? How does she know? Can she guarantee it? She can't guarantee anything. She's just making that assumption. So again, this is just basic facts and basic principles. And another thing I want to quickly comment on, which I might address in a future video in more detail, is that Anthony Albanese has said on repeated occasions that the Parliament will pass legislation after the voice referendum. So if the voice referendum is passed, people vote yes in October, November this year. After that, the Parliament will pass legislation which will basically dictate the functions, powers, and all that sort of stuff that the voice will have. And presumably, those functions and powers will address what areas they can talk about, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, the Constitution is where this debate will be held, not the Parliament. Okay, the Parliament can't tell the voice what to do. Okay, like Megan Davis said, you can't shut the voice up once it comes into effect, and the Parliament can't control what the voice says. They can try. They can put some parameters. They can make recommendations as to what areas they should address. Like Linda Burney did at the National Press Club. He said housing and a few other the 4 main pillars that she asked for the voice to address. But those are just requests. You can't legislate that. Okay, even though they say they can legislate, they can't, because at the end of the day, let's just assume that legislation comes into effect, and the voice makes recommendations about issues outside of that legislation. The High Court, it will go to court basically, and the voice will take the government to court, okay? And the High Court will decide whether the voice can comment on issues like Australia Day or submarines or different issues that the Parliament apparently doesn't want them to comment on. And at the end of the day, the Constitution overrides the Parliament basically. And the High Court will decide what the real functions and powers of the voice will have, because the voice is going to be enshrined in the Constitution, which means it's regulated by the High Court, okay, and not the Parliament. And I don't understand why people don't understand this. This is very basic constitutional law. Any constitutional lawyer will tell you exactly what I've told you. I'm not a genius here. I'm just saying what I've imbibed in the last 5-10 years of my research and life. I've seen a lot of documentaries and videos, and I've spoken to a lot of people about these issues. And this is just, basic stuff. And the government is literally lying to people, and a lot of people aren't understanding this. The IPA, for example, Institute of Public Affairs, and, people at Sky News, etc., they've addressed this and they've made this point that I'm making. I'm not, saying anything, new here. But that's just a very small minority of people. And Middle Australia, a lot of people are going to be going to this referendum and thinking that the Parliament can decide on what the voice says, which is not true. A lot of people can go to this referendum thinking that Linda Burney's right and the voice is not going to be changing Australia, which, as I said, is not going to happen. That they are going to change Australia if it gets up. So there's a lot of issues here at play here. I've just focused on one for this video. I'll leave it at that. There's obviously more issues I'm going to be talking about moving forward. But if you're watching this and you're on Telegram or YouTube, it's worth sharing this video in a lot of chats, talking to people about what I've just said and explain to them how Australia Day is going to be under attack if the voice gets up. And basically utilising this argument as a way to get people to vote no, because there's still a very good majority when it comes to Australia Day, and a lot of people would literally vote no just because of the fear that Australia Day is going to be changed. So it's worth using that as one of our arguments. Our victory.